Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at Bitcoin mining stocks on the charts. Let's start off with fear and greed and CNN. It was up into the higher neutral territory, low greed. It has just dipped down into fear. And on pie vesting, it still has us up into greed. So as far as the stock market's concerned, we did get up into the greed area, and maybe we're just starting to come back down. I do videos on the stock market every Thursday or Friday, typically after the weekly earnings reports come out. So if that interests you, please subscribe and stay tuned for those videos. As far as crypto fear and greed, because we are talking about mining stocks, and what's traditionally or historically happened, I'm sorry, I just saw the advertisements as far as these shirts. Anyways, what's historically happened is mining stocks typically follow the way that the crypto altcoins go. Sometimes it can even front run it. So we do have to pay attention to the crypto mining stocks. I'm sorry, I'm losing it here. We are still up into greed, almost extreme greed in crypto. So time to be cautious. And recently we were just down into extreme fear just a couple weeks ago. So we had a big move. We also have the Ethereum ETF coming out today, I think. So it's something to keep in mind, because when the Bitcoin ETF came out, I can show you that on the chart. It was right here. And greed went really high into the ETF, and then there was a 20% sell-off. And then, of course, we went higher. I want to say Bitcoin was around 49K. Something else to consider is crypto. We were in this uptrend until those tops were created in March, and then we've been in this downtrend. So lower highs, lower lows. Bullish, or best case scenario, we do have the largest base underneath greed than that we've ever had. And last time we had a large base like that without a lot of fear staying in the market, we went on to make new all-time highs in the spring of 2021. Alt season kind of goes along with the miners exploding when they do. We're still low into alt season. So overall, should we get another cycle like I have shown here on my Bitcoin rainbow chart videos? I put those out every Tuesday. So if you want to hear more about everything Bitcoin and some of the cyclical patterns and how we look under the hood and break down the data, those come out every Tuesday. But as far as the rainbow chart's concerned, we still haven't had our typical cycle blow off top where we've gotten into these orange and red zones and Bitcoin went to new heights, 20,000, the high 60,000s. We did get the 70,000, but should this pattern continue, maybe we see something for Bitcoin like 150, 200K or higher. Who knows? So let's look at the Bitcoin chart right here, and then we'll get into the mining stocks. So Bitcoin, nothing really new to say. We've been in this downward channel, lower highs, lower lows. Maybe this thing's going to break out. We have this, the price is right underneath the 2021 all-time high, and we have this trend line that Bitcoin's been following since the start of this bull run. So you can see this trend line has just been going up. Bitcoin has been hitting and snaking around this trend line. So looks like maybe we're going to get confluence here, and should it get right up here within the coming week or so, I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin breaking the former all-time high, getting to somewhere like in the 80,000s for us to settle. But if not, and it does come back down here, possible good areas for value. So I know it sucks to see price go down. Here on Market Psychology, we want to change the way our mindset is and how we look at the market. If you like something enough to buy it here, then you should love it enough to buy it down here. So it's part of the philosophy we take. Anyways, let's get into the Bitcoin mining stocks. Marathon Digital Holdings, you can see after I had that big move, and we talked about this, it was at the 618 fib, and I said I'd like to see it stay there, because it really hasn't. It got up to the 618, broke down again, but now it's at the 50-day moving average. I'm curious to see what we have on the weekly. still grinding upwards and fighting that 618. So weekly, to me, it looks more bullish than bearish. It does have this upward trend, and it's still holding green, even though there's some red. So possible, good area for some dollar cost averaging value. Marathon, it's typically talked about as one of, if not the best mining stocks. So, possible good DCA value here if you like Marathon Digital Holdings. Of course, I advise everyone, none of this is financial advice, but my opinion is to set a budget. Of course, never invest more than you're willing to lose, and do your research. Look at all the pros, all the cons, weigh those before you decide whether or not putting your hard-earned money into something like a mining stock, any stock or altcoin is worth it for you. So you have to balance the risks and rewards for yourself. But yeah, I'm expecting possible bounce coming up here soon. You can see that in recent history, Mara has honored that 100-day moving average. So it might come down as low as the 20 mark, but then I would expect or anticipate it getting another bounce up. Next, let's go over to Riot Platforms. And we drew this wedge shape here a while ago, and then it broke under, and then it's been just hanging out underneath this orange line, which is a 382 macro fib. And if you're wondering what a fib is, or the Fibonacci retracement, it's this tool here on TradingView. You can see it as the different percentages, the 786, 618, and I drew it from the prior high to low. And typically there is a lot of buying and taking profit at these different zones when you see any asset on the Fibonacci scale. So not always, sometimes it can just blast through it, but typically we see price kind of hanging around those areas. That's also why I have these lines. Those are moving averages. We have the orange, that's the 50, the light blue, the 100, and the dark blue, the 200. So right now we're on the 1 year or daily time frame, and as you can see, we're at the 382 fib, and there's a lot of support here on the daily. So I like how that looks for Riot as far as dollar cost average value. You can also see that it did have a weekly buy signal. It has moved up a considerable amount. Let's take a look from that low to how high it's up 20%. So, do be wary. Of course, these things can come down a bit. And as you can see, even with the candle being up here at the high 11s, it could get down to the low 11s just to maybe get a little retracement before coming back up. But on the weekly, we see a different story. We see the 200 and this lower trend line as resistance, and Riot has to get back above those in order to return to somewhat of a bullish case. So, sometimes we can see wedge patterns or other sorts of things. And trend lines, guys, are only good as long as they're good for. But, this thing's been invalidated. So really it's just, I would say, I'm just watching this right here, all the sideways price action on the 382. I think that's more valuable here. Lower highs, lower lows, at worst, it is possible. Would I be surprised to see Riot come back down to the 7 mark? Should we get another crypto flush? Increasing volatility going into the election, I would not be surprised. So just something to keep an eye on. If I see Riot at $7, I myself might be salivating. So next, let's go to CleanSpark, CLSK, CleanSpark. And CleanSpark, so as opposed to the Riot chart, what do you see here on CleanSpark? There's a couple of ways to look at it. One, you could say, well, Riot looks like it has more upside, more value. And while you could be right, one way to look at a chart like this is there are more people consistently putting their money, and there's more volume into a chart like this. And so CleanSpark, to me, this is a better looking chart. More people are paying attention to it, and they keep pushing it up. So CleanSpark looking good here on the weekly. You can see it's going sideways there for a bit. So could it come down, test this 618, and look at all these moving averages? There'd be some nice support there around the high 12 mark. Sure, that's possible. If you really like CleanSpark, I could see, that 13, high 12s area being a good area for dollar cost averaging in. Going on the daily, what do we see here? We see the clean spark. It likes riding this 50-day moving average and sometimes comes down to the 100. Kind of peaked underneath it, so we're getting some sideways action. I'd be curious to see what happens if it starts to get underneath this area right here, the high 14s. Again, I would not be surprised to see it get into the 13s. And if so, if you're a Clean Spark fan, I think that'd be a good area for value. Of course, you can see here the 786 Fib at 21. It's got to stay above there. It's tested it so many times. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got to get above there. It's even trying to reach up there, and you can see almost like someone who's drowning. This is the water line. It's a little bit morbid. I apologize, but it, got its head above water, and now it's slowly sinking. You can look at it that way too. So I will be. And my gut says that it would come down here first, and then possibly get a good bounce, but. Yeah, I don't like seeing lower highs. I'll say that. So just something to be wary of. Here on this channel, I try not to get too much into the prediction game as best as I can. A lot of crypto YouTubers get caught up in predictions. I try to do my best to take my bias and ego out of how I look at the charts and just show you what it's showing us and just mindfully take things from where they're at. CIFR mining, you can see here, nice big move up. We've been talking about CIFR for a while, how I really like stocks that slowly grind up. And all of a sudden, boom, it had this nice move here to the 786 at around $7. Did come back down a little bit. Let's zoom in here. So it had a nice move up. Came down to that light blue line is the 10-day moving average. It is possible it comes down maybe a little lower to the 20. You can see here we have some price action, so I would not be surprised to see it come down to the mid fives and then possibly resume up. At least it's been looking really strong. Maybe the trend lines or the moving averages, will have to catch up with it, but you can see it really liked the 100 and the 50, occasionally the 200, but this thing, who knows? It's maybe it can hold on to eventually the 786 at $7. So I do like that as far as CIFR is concerned. And I haven't talked about this in a couple weeks, I think, but something to be considered about it or considerate of. And guys, this does not apply to CIFR now. But when you look at the dates at the bottom, you see here December 2020. When CIFR mining came out, December 2020, what was happening is Bitcoin was making new all-time highs. And you can see that right here, December 2020, I'll show you on the rainbow chart. December 2020, Bitcoin was getting above that 20,000 level back here in 2017. That's when CIFR came out. And the reason I bring this up is whenever Bitcoin creates new all-time highs or is getting near the peak, you want to be careful or extra cautious of new altcoins, new mining stocks that come out. And me personally, I don't touch IPOs within the first year or two. And this is kind of the same reason. It came out at 10, got to 13, 15, and then had over a 97% sell-off. And that happens with a lot of these. Now, is it possible you could catch lightning in a bottle and find a rare play that just takes off? Sure. But more often than not, that's not what I see happen. Again, this has nothing to do with where CIFR is now. But as you're looking at new altcoins, possibly new mining stocks, please be aware of that. I personally don't touch them. But if you do, I hope it works out for you. Sometimes, very rarely, they work. Most times, they do not. Let's go to TeraWulf. TeraWulf, this one I was very excited about when I started this channel because I saw a nice bounce here and this upward movement. And I looked at the former all-time high of 44. I said, hey, this thing's got some potential. Even if it only gets up to the 786 at best at around 17, I still liked it because we found it, or we were talking about it when it was at the low mid $1 mark. And TeraWulf, just kind of like CIFR, which was slowly grinding up and then broke out, it's starting to now come down to this base around the 0.5 on the fib. That's around the high $4 mark. So it shot up like a rocket, and now it's going into orbit. it's going to settle in and then decide whether or not it wants to continue on to the moon and then possibly to Mars. So we'll see. But TeraWulf, it's got a $1.81 billion market cap. And guys, if you're thinking about Bitcoin mining stocks the way people do altcoins and how people have ridiculous price predictions, do consider market cap and do know that when these mining stocks and altcoins shoot up and all of a sudden you see your portfolio 10x or 20x, I highly recommend taking profits. Of course, nothing here is financial advice, but if you don't, these things can gloriously fall off the chart. So if you all of a sudden find yourself with a 10 to 20 or 50x profit on anything crypto, and it did a 50x or whatever inside of a year, just saying that's not typical, and typically the prices don't stay there. They can fall off gloriously. So don't be afraid to possibly, it's up to you, take some profits, at least get your initial investment back, play with house money. But yeah, it's all unrealized profits until you take it out, and that money's actually yours. And none of these things go up forever. Well, Bitcoin kind of does, but even in the medium term goes down a bit. So I digress. Let's go to Bit Digital. And Bit Digital, a little bit of choppiness between the 382 and the 0.5. It's testing the 0.5 again. So hopefully it breaks up and settles above the 0.5 at around the mid $4 mark and gets to the 786. Excuse me, water break. All right, and gets to the 786 at around the high $6 mark. But one thing I would be worried about, if it isn't able to successfully get and stay above this 0.5, is we could have a possible head and shoulders pattern. And if we did, then typically from the neckline to the top of the head, you have about an equal movement down. And if that were to happen, you could see it coming down here to the low $1 mark. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but just something to be aware of is that is how head and shoulders patterns can play out, or it might just keep chopping sideways. So, some of these patterns, it can possibly give us an indication of what's going to happen, or it just keep going sideways and accumulating. So we'll see. It's an important level here, but if not, you could start eyeing the mid $2 or the mid $1 mark for Bit Digital. Next, let's take a look at Bitfarms. We have Bitfarms, Iris Energy, and Core Scientific. So Bitfarms, it's been climbing this trend line, crawling back down to it. Right now it's challenging the 618 macro fib. You can see it really hasn't stayed above there for too long. But if it isn't successful, we're going to have some confluence here, and decisions are going to have to be made on whether or not, things are getting really tight in here, whether or not it's going to explode up or down. So, either one's on the table. If it went down, we have some price action. The next fib right down here, that would not surprise me, at around the high $1 mark at worst. We're looking at the low $1, $1.30. But if all of a sudden it shoots up, then we would be looking at the 786, about $5 there for Bitfarms. So yeah, we're getting close to Bitfarms making a decision. So we'll see what happens. Is the trend line going to be invalidated? Well, as I like to say, trend lines are only good for as long as they're good for. Or is this thing getting ready to just blast off like a couple of the other mining stocks we've looked at? Let's go to Iris Energy Limited and then Core Scientific. So Iris Energy had a nice move here up to the whoop. We have to put this on. I was almost going to say the 0.5, but we have to go to log scale. So, all right, let's reevaluate. So it went from the 0.5 up to the 786. Tried to stay above the 786, reach for the moon, and then all of a sudden it got spat back down into lower orbits. So it's getting some support here at the 50-day moving average. Next, the 100 here at about $9. You can see here there's some price structure. If it doesn't hold the 50, next stop would be here at around the mid to high $8 mark to the $9 mark, because we do have some price structure here. So we'll see if this can hold. If it can hold, then yes, you would expect possibly getting back up to this high $13 mark, because we did have this higher high. Yes, we do have these lower lows, and it's coming down here, but it is possible it shoots up once more. If I were to guess, I would say somewhere around 17. But yeah, we got to see if this 50-day holds. And if you do like Iris, possible some good DCA value right here around the low 8s. And then lastly, let's leave it with Core Scientific. Someone brought this up to the channel to look at this all the way back here when it was brand new. This one, like I said, be careful of new altcoins or new mining stocks. Came out right around the Bitcoin ETF. So me personally, I'm not touching it. Now, by me not touching it, sounded weird, I missed out on a 3x. Now, that's going to happen sometimes, and guys, I am absolutely fine with it. I don't take a look at this as woulda, coulda, shoulda. But when I look at some of these newer plays, it's high risk, high reward, and the way mining stocks, altcoins go is really the way the crypto market goes. So if Bitcoin all of a sudden has a little bit of a flush out, to the low 50,000s or whatever, the altcoins and the miners are going to do that too. So just something to be aware of. Does have a $1.9 billion market cap. So we'll see. I think of it in comparison to Riot or Mara, which is around 6 billion. It could do another 3x, or it might just hang around here. So not a lot to see or get out of this on the chart, but should things get bearish, I would expect it to come back down to around these $4 levels. But should it get bullish, who knows? This thing could get up to $30 in an alt season. Who knows, even higher, possibly 100. But I rather put my money into any of those other altcoins we talked about than this one. This one to me is more of an educated gamble, where the research matters more than anything technical analysis or charts. So do your own research. If you love the research and you believe in it, put your money where your mouth is, and I hope it works out for you, genuinely. So if you like Core Scientific, comment below why that is and where you believe it might be able to go. What do you like about it? What looks promising to you? So guys, I hope you are all doing well. I hope you have a wonderful, I have to double check, Wednesday. And yeah, thank you for watching. Take care.